Formula One is getting its stalled season back on track in Austria next month. They haven't raced since December, but there's still been plenty going on behind the scenes. So let's have a look at 5 things people are talking about. This is Sports File. First of all, the races. And there's a couple of firsts here. Austria's scenic Spielberg circuit has never hosted a season opener before. That's been Australia in recent years. And there won't be any spectators in those grandstands either at the Red Bull Ring for the first time. So the atmosphere is going to be very different, but there will be racing, which is good news for the sport and teams financially, as well as fans craving some action. Spielberg and Silverstone will each also have 2 races back to back, and that's also a first for the sport. No circuit has ever hosted 2 races in a World Championship in the same season. Formula One is also talking about 15 to 18 races this year, including rounds in Asia, the Americas and the Middle East, although there's considerable uncertainty about some of those races. And that'll be enough to get the championship done in reasonable shape, even if the record 22, originally planned for, clearly isn't going to happen. So what about the teams? Well, there's been a lot happening there in the last few months as well, starting with the most glamorous and successful team of them all, Ferrari. 4 times world champion Sebastian Vettel, who won his titles with Red Bull, is going to be starting his last season, and there could be some fireworks. The German had a torrid time last season against his new young teammate Charles Leclerc from Monaco. Leclerc beat him on about every score: points, podiums, wins, pole positions, and he finished higher up in the championship. He's the future at Ferrari. Vettel is going to want to go out on a high to show what he can still do and what his worth is. The team always comes first at Ferrari, and drivers are expected to obey orders. But what does Vettel have to lose now that he knows that Spaniard Carlos Sainz is coming in from McLaren next year to replace him? Could it be, perhaps, that his car's radio is maybe not working quite as well as it used to when it comes to responding to some of those unwelcome requests? And then there's the bigger question. Where does the German go next? He's still only 32, but could Germany's sole driver on the starting grid be heading into retirement? Renault could be interested. The former world champions have a vacancy now that Australian Daniel Ricciardo has decided to go off after just 1 year with the French team and join McLaren next year. But the French manufacturer could also be open to their 2 times world champion Fernando Alonso, who wants to make a comeback after leaving McLaren at the end of 2018. Renault have said that they're in no hurry to make a decision yet. I mean, Alonso is going to be 39. He will be one of the oldest drivers in the sport. But it does mean that there's going to be plenty of speculation in the months ahead. If the Renault seat looks to be the most tempting available at the moment, well, what about champions Mercedes? 6 times world champion Lewis Hamilton he's sure to stay. But what about his Finnish teammate, Valtteri Bottas? His contract is expiring at the end of the year, just like Lewis's. Mercedes are the only team with 2 drivers over the age of 30. Everyone else has got a young driver and an older driver, or maybe even 2 young drivers. Mercedes know Bottas is a safe pair of hands, but the Finn hasn't really set the world alight in the last couple of years. Could Vettel have a chance there? Maybe reviving the old Anglo-German rivalry that we saw between Hamilton and Nico Rosberg. Maybe Mercedes will go for young Briton George Russell, who's currently at Williams. The 2018 Formula 2 champion couldn't score a point last year, but that team could soon be under new ownership. They're one of the sport's most successful teams. They were dominant in the 80s and 90s, but they've been struggling for the last 2 years on and off the track. Last week, they announced that they were looking for fresh investment and looking at all options, including a sale. Can they, like Fernando Alonso perhaps, engineer a comeback?